finalists have been nominated for the permanent town manager position. We cover each interview and, of course, the final results.
Also coming up, holiday reminders. From home heating tips to recycling do's and don'ts, we have it all.
And later, get ready for upcoming town events. With a variety of programs, there's something for everyone.
Those stories and much more ahead on ELCAT News Update.
Thanks for tuning in to ELCAT News Update. I'm Rebecca Green.
And I'm Courtney Ingalls.
We begin the show with results from the latest town council meeting, where interviews were conducted for the permanent town manager position. For the past few months, the council has been working with a recruitment company known as the Collins Center. The center provided resumes for the town manager screening committee to review. On November 22nd, the committee recommended 3 finalists to the council. They are Christopher Clark, Thomas Guarnero, and our current interim town manager, Denise Menard. First, we take a look at Christopher Clark, who was interviewed first on Wednesday, November 30th.
Chris, I just want to thank you for your interest in our town manager position.
Thank you for the opportunity.
For tonight, we're going to have approximately 10 questions to cover.
Okay.
In the next hour or thereabouts. In 2 or 3 minutes, could you tell us why you're interested in the position and why you should be selected?
I think my resume kind of speaks for itself in terms of just the experience that I have. I think one of the things that probably people would ask is why come back here? And I think, you know, probably not too often you have people say that they made a mistake. When I left Southbridge, I kind of made a mistake. I had a good situation there. It was a council manager form of government. I was having a lot of success, making a lot of progress. And I just decided that I wanted something different. So I decided to get down the Cape. And the Cape is, you know, the Cape is interesting. It's beautiful in the summer and it's desolate in the winter. And that's probably a good way to say it. It's a little bit different. So I'm interested, I still have a house in Sturbridge, so I'm interested in finding a town that's in close proximity to the house. So the idea would be to relocate to East Long Meadow, providing that, you know, we find a house and everything.
Chris, what's your vision for a proactive municipal government?
I think that, you know, the good fortune I've had being in this business so long, that what you do is if you listen to people and if you get a good sense for what the needs of a community are, then you can actually propose things in advance. And I think I've been very successful in my career, and I think part of that success has been that I understand what people ask for, I understand what people want. So when recommendations are made or projects are made, they're not really my projects. They're my interpretation of what the community feels that it needs. And I think that's what, to me, being proactive is understanding what the issues are as they begin to materialize and then taking action before, you know, or you give people timeliness so they can take an action before it becomes a bigger issue.
What's your experience in initiating and implementing major change? And so it's a 2-part.
Mm-hmm.
And how will you go about implementing the changes identified in the charter, centralizing the agencies in East Long Meadow that have been run with autonomy for several years?
Mm-hmm. I think in terms of implementing change, probably like even when I went to Harwich, I got there and I thought their finances were a little bit shaky and that they needed to have a little bit better focus and direction. So I laid out, actually it's right on their website, kind of a strategy, if you would, to kind of reorient how we do business and what would be the guiding principles that I would use to guide the organization forward. A lot of those financial principles come out of Standard & Poor's. They have AAA bond rated communities, which I think is a great approach. What they do is they look at communities, they find what are the best practices that exist in those communities, and then they identify them so you can read them. And there's only, I think there's like 10 or 12. I laid them out and said every budget that I put forth will adhere to these principles. So one of the principles is just as an example is you have to live within your means. So I say to the departments, look, you got to tell me what you need so I have a sense for where we're going. But if we can't afford it, then we'll have to make reductions down to existing levels. But if I don't know the need is there, I'm never going to be able to plan to try to meet that need at a later time. So I think kind of reorienting people, literally laying out the strategy, if you would, of how things will be approached. And I think, I have thought, obviously, about the new charter here. You're really taking an organization and shaking it. And I think one of the things that probably would make some sense, just my initial reaction would be almost do a piece at a time. Try to focus on maybe DPW, then I think you have an HR position that you're trying to fill as well. Kind of look at the priority list, what makes sense to fill first, what makes sense to reorganize, so that way we're not just doing a shotgun approach. Because I think, quite honestly, a shotgun approach coming in and trying to do it all at once, it's just not going to be very effective in my mind. I would rather have it where I can go in, do it thoughtfully, and then propose something that's going to make sense and going to last.
Next, interview highlights from Thomas Guarnero, who was also interviewed on November 30th.
Why East Long Meadow? There's a number of reasons. There's a new form of government here. There is a challenge for someone, even with a little gray hair, maybe more than a little, to take on. That really intrigued me. I get jazzed up with this type of thing. I think it allows, don't get stale. You get to try new things, and some things are going to work and some things aren't. And but at least you're able to try new things. I would really like a town that I can sink my teeth into, I'm not going anywhere. I have 3 kids in college, and spend the next 10 years, hopefully, working to make something new institutionalized.
All right.
Tom, what is your vision for proactive municipal government?
That's a very broad question. I think there's a number of things you can do, or I would try to do, being proactive. There's a number of new budgetary systems out there. In Bourne, we're starting to use something called priority-based budgeting. It's a different way of doing things. It's grouping things into public safety or culture and recreation, but looking at different departments on what they may offer. So you'll always think of police and fire as an example as public safety. You may bring recreation into that in some areas, into public safety and some of the youth programs that they may have. You may look at some of the work that the Council on Aging may do with senior check-ins and those types of things. So safety takes a different view. So there are a number of new programs out there. Some of them go back to the future, but there's a number of ways that you can look at that. I think the other thing that to be proactive, as a manager, you have to be out meeting with the departments. You have to be at functions where people are. You have to find out what the pulse of the community is. It's certainly going to be looking to the council, even though it's a fairly young council, in how to prioritize where they want the community to go, because even though the manager takes care of your day-to-day operations and hopefully helps the council provide, look at some priorities and how to put things in order, at the end of the day, it's the council that's going to be setting direction on where they want the town to go. I think technology is another piece that we can use to interact with our citizenry, as well as interact interdepartmentally. That helps with proactive. You can see what the public wants and you can work with that.
What's your experience in initiating and implementing major changes? How will you go about implementing the changes identified in the charter and centralizing the agencies in East Long Meadow that have been run with autonomy for several years?
The charter is very clear as to what needs to be done. What isn't clear in many parts of the charter that East Long Meadow just put on was the timeline for those. And the way that I see this happening is deliberate meetings with the department heads, setting up guidelines and protocols as to how this is going to, how I expect it or however the manager expects it to work, how communications are expected to flow, how personnel issues are to be handled and where they're to be handled. I understand. I know that there are funds for an HR department that you have not had before, for I believe an HR manager, director, and a staff person by looking at the numbers. So that's going to, I think, be a very one of the first things that if I were retained would be to hire that person. But I think if you set up the protocols and you ask for feedback, I think I said this in my first interview, there are 3 ways of decision making that I see. There's probably 100. You can come in and work with your department leaders or with the council. I answer to you folks. But there's a consensus building method. There is, I'm looking for your advice and then I'm going to make a decision. Or there is a, I need to make this decision. This is what we're going to have to do to move this forward. Thank you for your input. But I think primarily if you set up what the expectations are, you put them in writing so everybody understands what they are. The council buys in, even though it's not required in every area, but you certainly want the chief elected officials to have confidence and comfortability with what the manager is doing.
Lastly, Denise Menard was interviewed Thursday, December 1st.
We can start. Don, you started yesterday, so why don't we just go in that same order?
Good evening, Denise.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. What is your vision for a proactive municipal government?
I think proactive municipal government certainly has to do with partnering with the entire community. And I may have reported to you all at one point that I have kind of done a tour of East Longmeadow, where I actually have met with a lot of residents. I've met with 2 local clubs, the Rotary Club and the Lions, and a lot of boards and commissions. So I think getting the government, this new form of government, on the right foot to start with, and dispelling the fears that some have, that some residents feel they're losing power, that truly is not the case, that you all are a good, solid council. You have good reasons for being where you are. I've shared with them some conversations that we've had, hopefully instilling confidence in them that they do have a representative government. I think that's probably the most important first step toward the positive government that you need here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What's your plan, or how will you go about implementing the changes identified in the charter, which includes centralizing agencies in East Longmeadow that have been run with autonomy for several years?
I think part of that is my tour of East Longmeadow, in that I have met with some boards and commissions that were pretty standoffish, pretty skeptical as to how the government is going to work, and I don't think we all have total buy-in from them, but I think they are seeing that it is not that the council nor the town manager, at least with my style, are there to grab power and just dismiss them as insignificant. Because in reality, what I've said to, it was a group of, I think, 9 commissioners that were at a table, that at the end of the day, I'm not a specialist in all of the different operations of a government. I know at a higher level all the different operations, but how you run recreation or public works or planning, I don't know the guts of that. Some of that, the commissioners actually know what the residents want more than I would. So they're valuable. The commissioners are still valuable. The residents need to feel that they're going to have the representation of, they'll be able to go to that commissioner that they've had before and say, you know, we need whatever. So it all goes back to, I think, my inclusive style of making sure that everybody feels that they're being heard. I will go up to the counter, and if the staff is kind of struggling with an answer for a resident, I absolutely don't hesitate to go up to the counter and say, have you thought about trying that? Maybe that would help. And being that kind of hands-on seems to be taking away some of that, we don't know who that person is in that office. She wasn't voted in by us. Does she represent us? And I've actually had some pretty positive comments about that.
By commissioners, you mean department heads, correct?
Well, department heads as well, but commissioners,
as well.
Actually the the staff seems pretty comfortable that they've got somebody that they can come to and partner with, and jointly we're coming up with solutions and addressing some things that have not been addressed. And I've been told by the department heads, we're so glad we have somebody that is addressing some of the things that we've wanted to address for years, and we haven't had the authority or the buy-in. So.
Thank you.
Immediately after the interviews were conducted, the council went into deliberation, where a final decision would be announced.
I think any one of these candidates, if we were to choose them, I could go home, put my head on the pillow and sleep well tonight knowing that we've chosen a good candidate. So with that said, I have to start working things through my mind in terms of because we can't choose all three. So I'll start with Mr. Clark. The early part of the interview, I had a lot of concerns. There were several questions that I didn't think he answered very clearly. Later in the interview, he and I kind of got in some back and forth on budgetary stuff, and I got to tell you, the guy hit the nail on the head. He thinks a lot like what East Long Meadow's budget has been trying to set the course on, and that gained an awful lot of points in my book. So out of the three, in my mind, I've moved Mr. Clark to the lower end of the scale. So that left two. Walking into today, I really felt very strong about Mr. Garino. I think his budget skills, which again are important to me, are very well defined, and I think that we certainly wouldn't go wrong with him. So I kind of walked into this evening favoring Mr. Garino. But then we just sat through Denise Menard. And I'll be honest with you guys, I was reminded of something tonight in listening to her. She's a manager that I think can affect change, but she's got some aspects to her that I think we all need to consider. She's got the compassion, the style, the demeanor that is embraced not only by the workforce, but embraced by the community, by the residents. She's a manager that I think enables, while at the same time enables people to succeed, builds them to succeed, but at the same time holds them accountable. Any one of these people have the skills to manage the nuts and bolts of our community. That's obvious. So it becomes a matter of fit. And actually, I'll be honest with you, right now I'm leaning toward Mrs. Menard, because I believe that she has those qualities that our community needs now more than ever. In the immediate future, I think the community will benefit the most from.
I would say that they're all pretty well equally qualified. I'm going to have to say that my choice is going to be Denise. From the beginning, even when she was hired as an interim, one of the biggest things that she had was compassion for the employees of this town.
I'd like to propose a motion to appoint Denise Menard the permanent town manager.
A second.
So it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
We're officially in the winter season, and residents are getting their space heaters out, fireplaces turned on, and warming up their cars. East Long Meadow Fire Lieutenant Chris Beecher explains crucial home heating tips you need to know for these special items. First, Lieutenant Beecher talks about chimney maintenance.
Especially this time of year as we get into home heating season, we start to run our furnaces, we start to use our fireplaces and our pellet stoves. And one of the problems that people run into with this is that they haven't properly checked these appliances before they use them. So what you're going to run into is you run into chimneys that haven't been cleaned, they haven't been used for a year. So what we like to do is advise people, homeowners, to make sure you get that chimney cleaned out before you use your fireplace at the start of any season. It's also a good idea to have it inspected yearly if you can.
Next, carbon monoxide detectors and smoke alarms should be checked monthly for working abilities.
So part of home heating season is the potential for carbon monoxide in your home. Carbon monoxide is a colorless, odorless gas, and it's a byproduct of burning fossil fuels. So if you have a gas furnace or an oil furnace, fireplace, wood stove, gas appliances, anything like that, will emit carbon monoxide. If your appliances are properly vented, it's not an issue. However, sometimes if there's a malfunction in the appliance, or if there's a backup in the ventilation of that appliance, then you can get a carbon monoxide buildup in your home. They sell detectors. It's a law in Massachusetts that every home has a carbon monoxide detector. Date on the back, manufacturing date, so 6 years from that date, go out and get yourself a brand new carbon monoxide detector. Also, another potential cause of carbon monoxide in your home, we get into that season now, it's getting cold, you want to defrost the windows in your car, or you want to warm up your car in the morning. So people will go out and they'll warm up their car, they leave it in their garage. A car does emit carbon monoxide, and it can get into your home that way. If you do have to warm up your car, remove it from the garage, close the garage door, make sure that it's away from the home, that there's no open windows near it, because that carbon monoxide will find its way into the house, and then you could potentially have a problem.
Lastly, space heaters need a safety perimeter to prevent burns and other hazardous dangers.
Space heaters are a good idea if you need a little extra heat in your house. The problem being is that some people don't realize the hazards that are associated with space heaters. Electrical space heaters, definitely want to make sure that it's plugged directly into an outlet. We don't run an extension cord off of that. We suggest a 3-foot circle of safety. So basically 3 feet in all directions of that space heater should be kept clear of anything that can burn.
To watch the entire home heating program, head over to our YouTube page at ELCAT 01028 under the Fire Department playlist.
Winter season also means holiday season. The town has provided a holiday recycling reminder that we've recapped into a do's and don'ts recycling list. Do include the following for your paper recycling mix: corrugated cardboard boxes, paperboard gift boxes, greeting cards, wrapping paper, gift bags, tissue wrap, paper shopping bags, catalogs, and calendars. Moving on to the don'ts. Do not include the following items in your municipal recycling mix: ribbons, bows, tinsel, packing peanuts, styrofoam, holiday lights, plastic bags, blister packaging, and photographs. For any questions, head over to www.springfieldmrf.org.
Now it's time for our weekly segment, Library Learning, where we let you know everything that's happening at the East Long Meadow Public Library. Get ready for creative writing with the library's monthly program, Writers Group. This writing workshop is open to all levels. Conductor Emily Savin will teach participants how to write with confidence in a supportive atmosphere. The workshop takes place on Saturday, December 10th at 10:30 a.m. in the library conference room. The next library event is one that will get you in the Christmas spirit. Explore Charles Dickens' popular hit of A Christmas Carol. Presenter Barry Dietz will share the story behind Dickens' writing. Learn how the beloved tale became a modern concept of Christmas. The program takes place on Wednesday, December 14th at 6 p.m. in the library community room. Registration is required. Lastly, sit back and relax with the library's Friday Flicks. This month, the library will be showing the action-packed movie Jason Bourne. The PG-13 rated film is a thrilling suspense that focuses on a former CIA agent who gets drawn out of hiding to uncover truths about his past. See it for yourself on Friday, December 16th at 1 p.m. in the library community room.
We'll end tonight with upcoming church events. First, all are welcome to St. Michael's Community Center for A Night in Bethlehem. The church brings the past to life as residents will stroll through the Jerusalem marketplace, visit shopkeepers, and experience the live nativity. Don't miss this special event on Friday, December 9th at 6:30 p.m. at St. Michael's Parish Community Center on Summers Road. Donations are welcome to benefit the Forest Park Zoo. For more information, visit stmichaels.org. For this next program, you'll have to dress the part. St. Mark's Church invites all to the annual Christmas caroling event. Participants are asked to dress in Christmas attire. Those interested will meet at St. Mark's Church at 9:30 a.m. on Saturday, December 10th. The group will be caroling at a few stops, such as the East Long Meadow Skilled Nursing Center and Wingate. For more information, visit stmarksma.org. Well, that will do it for this edition of ELCAT News Update. Be sure to stay connected with us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at ELCAT01028.
Also, watch us and all our programs on cable channel 191, 192, and 193. For cable channel times, make sure to check out our ELCAT program guide, available at the Town Hall, Library, Senior Center, and through our website at eastlongmeadowma.gov. Also, check your mail as the programs will be delivered monthly within the reminder.
Until next time, I'm Rebecca Green.
And I'm Courtney Ingalls. Thank you for watching. See you next week.